extra pen?
I'll find you.
I got one, Zach.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I found you one.
Good job, Zach. Thank you.
Ask and you shall receive.
Yes. Did you do something else this weekend? I saw that you volunteered. Was it Carrie? That's awesome. How'd it go?
Good, and those were my first ones, so I'm excited.
Did you have many people through?
Yeah, I had
Good morning.
about 5.
You gave me that look like,
No,
what did they do?
That's fantastic. Good
I
for
was
you.
in deep thought.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Don't hurt yourself.
All right, who wants to share? Anyone want to share anything that they jotted down?
I do.
Okay.
My first 3 things that came to mind was first my husband for getting out of his comfort zone.
Yes. Tim, our new broker T,
Yeah.
as we call him.
Life lessons, because we only grow when we learn, when we make mistakes or flourish, and for great mentors.
Oh, awesome. Was that in the gratitude jar for great
That was
mentors?
mine.
Oh, that was yours. Okay. Do you have a gratitude message as well?
I do.
Do you want to share it?
Katie, my something from Charlie.
From Charlie?
Yes.
Oh, that's mom.
Yeah, that's her son.
M-O-M.
Oh, yes, you know
Oh,
it's
is that for Katie? What does it say?
It says I'm grateful for Katie.
Aww.
My mom.
Oh, that's so
Charlie.
sweet. You have to give her that. That's so cute.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's so
Better
awesome.
handwriting than I.
That's so awesome. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I'm old.
Love
I
it.
wrote down a new career.
Yay. Yes, you're
And
here.
I'm very grateful. The office staff and the agents have been so helpful. Anytime I
Aw.
have a question,
Yes,
nobody
they are.
rolls their eyes and says it's him again. At least
Awesome.
not yet.
Awesome.
And, I'm grateful for my faith.
Oh, yes.
And I got one of these. Do you want me to read that?
Please.
I am grateful for the growth of the office.
Yay.
Yay.
Yes, yes, we're having lots of growth. An exciting time in Rochester. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Anybody else want to share anything that they're grateful for? Yes, Megan.
I am grateful for May being my best month that I've ever had in real estate.
Awesome. What do you contribute that to, Megan? Anything in particular?
Getting
I have
off my
goosebumps.
butt and doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. So what are some of the activities that you've been doing?
Best
Best May ever. How many years in real estate?
my first full-time year was 2016.
So awesome.
This is the first year that I've ever been on track with my goals in the first quarter.
Okay.
Usually second quarter, I'm, catching
Catch
up.
up.
And then third quarter, hoping I'd get, enough to
Right.
get through fourth quarter. So far I'm like totally on track for what I want to be doing. So.
Do you find that when you're at goal or ahead of goal, that keeps that momentum going and that motivation going even
Yeah.
more so?
So I had a great year in 2016. And I did one of those, I've arrived and so I've got to do stuff. And so 2017.
We all have those moments, don't we? Yeah.
And I had made enough, through the end of the year to be very comfortable. And even if I didn't pick up right away at the beginning of 2018, I was like, or at 2016, if it didn't pick up right away in 2017, I was like, it'll be fine.
Mhm.
And I felt that a lot of what I had achieved in 2016 kind of fell in my lap. So I just thought that would continue. And so 2017, it was a really difficult year because nothing really fell in my lap and I was just kind of waiting and found myself in the same realm of where I had been before. Like I know I need to do something, I just don't know what I need to do. And so a lot of it for me was just making myself get on a schedule, making myself do, I'm terrible about making phone calls, I suck at it. So for me, it was just sending more handwritten cards, reaching out to more people, creating conversations around me about real estate, all of those things where I think I had gotten lax about that and figure everybody knows I'm in real estate, so you don't have to talk about it. And once I started doing that, everything started to pick up. So I mean, 2018 was much better, and so far 2019 is better yet, so.
Nice job.
Good, Zach, are you
Megan.
writing that down? Good
Yeah.
job, that's amazing. So what I heard was you're creating a schedule and you're sticking more to that schedule. Yeah? I heard mindset.
And I'm a horrible procrastinator.
Okay.
So, it's hard for me to not have, I don't have to be to work by. And then you have to stay at work until.
Yeah.
So it's, when I have to do things I don't wanna do, I can clean the house, I can, change the little laundry, I can,
Netflix?
yeah, do one more, yeah. So, making myself come to the office, a little bit more, be in the office, because that in itself just creates conversations, being around people, and if I'm in the office,
opportunities.
people ask me questions.
Yeah.
And then, and someone else walks by and like, hey, I have a scenario, what do you think, that kind of stuff, so. That's one of the big things I think about being here is whether someone asks me directly or I ask them directly, someone else is asking someone, you're always hearing conversations about real estate when you're in the office, so.
I love it.
Puts you in a more productive environment.
Yeah.
Now, I can't be in the office all the time because I can get distracted with all of that and just end up talking all day about real estate, not doing any of it,
Let's
so.
be purposeful when you are here.
So
which
I
you're
have
saying.
to work at home and then be here, I mean, for me, it's gotta be a split.
So can I jump in for
Yeah,
a minute?
absolutely.
So first off, I want to actually truly give her a round of applause if you guys don't mind. And the reason why I want to do it and the reason why you're such a good person to have this conversation about is because you are a great example of having a lot of self accountability and responsibility from this standpoint. What you said was the exact opposite of what this stands for. Anybody guess what these two letters stand for? Victim mindset or victim mentality, right? Because nothing would like the first question my mom asked was, what do you attribute that to? Your response was, I actually did the things I was supposed to, which is the exact opposite of what somebody with a victim mentality would say. Because somebody with victim mentality would say what?
Oh, it's
It's the market, it's the market, nobody wants to do this or that, anything other than they're not doing the things they should be doing, right? And you heard what Megan said, I had a great year, then I stopped doing the things I should be doing. And what's changed? Well, I'm now doing those things. I've adjusted my schedule, I'm sticking to it. And oh, by the way, I'm holding myself accountable to my schedule. I'm making more contacts, I'm having more conversations. Basically, I'm doing all of the activities that I should be doing to drive, grow, and increase my business because guess what? I do not have the victim mentality. I am owning that my success or failure in this business is solely dependent upon me, right? Which is huge. And guys, we live in an industry which a majority of people live this, breathe this, and surround themselves with this every single day. Why? Because it's easier. It's a lot easier to say the fault does not lie with you. It's a lot easier to say I'm not hitting my goals because of any other reason other than me and what I'm doing or not doing, right? And she's a great example of when you actually dial into those things that you should be doing. You're on goal. When you're on goal, life is easier. It's more enjoyable. You have motivation and excitement in your business, right?
a lot more fun.
Right.
Mhm.
I just
Checks are fun, I like them.
and checks are fun, but I mean I can't
So being
underscore
capped
this
in
enough.
selling a $400,000 house was like,
Heck yeah.
That's nice.
Heck yeah.
And here's the deal, we all fall victim to the victim mentality, right? Because we're human. The key is recognizing when you are in that space and making corrections quickly to rectify it. So I love that Zach started writing stuff down. You can tell mother, son here. I started writing, I wrote down mindset, schedule, purposeful. Your mindset has changed. You're adopting a schedule and you're being very purposeful in having those conversations and your time here, it sounds like, so.
And you're exactly right. The first thing is recognizing it. That's what I love about Megan because I've talked with you many times before. It should be the first. I'm like, oh, so how's business? Oh, well, it could be better. Why? Well, because I'm not doing the things I should be doing. I'm like, God bless you. Like you get it, right? And here's the deal. One of the biggest differences between our culture of productivity at this company and other places is we can recognize if and when we're showing signs of victim mentality, right? I would submit to you, people at other places don't even know. Because they don't know what they don't know. They don't, nobody's having conversations to say, well, here's the deal. The reason you're actually not on goal is you're not actually freaking working, right? So why don't you go to work? No, they just say, we live and breathe and die by the market. It's everybody else's fault but my own. They're not hitting my goals, right? Or it's other training or coaching or whatever, right? So It's about holding ourselves accountable to this, and it's also about holding who accountable to it? Each other.
Yeah.
Each other. When somebody goes down the path of poor me, poor me, poor me, what do we need to do collectively as a good culture and a family of agents?
Have the conversation.
You don't just buy into it and say, oh yeah, that just really sucks, that's terrible, you know, what are you gonna do? No, you say, hey, that's great, here's the deal, how are we gonna fix it? And oh, by the way, how can I help you? Right, that's the biggest difference. So don't forget that piece as well. Because in our office, everybody has the right to call somebody out on victim mentality, right? But we're not doing it because we're being jerks or being spiteful. We're doing it out of love because we need that person to quickly shift their mindset back to one of taking responsibility for their business and get back into production again. Does that make sense? Thoughts, questions on Hosky? Anybody relate to anything that Megan shared? Melissa, you'd like to give a burning desire
I'd
to
like,
share?
oh, I have so your comment, I just want to challenge you to
Yeah.
rephrase.
Yes.
You said I suck at phone calls. No. But calling people is a challenge to me, and I'm choosing to focus on my strengths of writing cards and doing social media or whatever it
There
is.
you go.
That
Instead of the but, yeah.
instead of the
Trying to remove
just coming
the
off at that negative at the very beginning, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it just made me cringe.
Yeah.
Because I know that I do that too much.
And then you had a very powerful statement that said, I'm a big procrastinator. Megan, how can you turn that around into an affirmation for yourself?
Oh, I love you guys.
Megan's like, this is the last time I shared.
This is what makes us though, is that we can have these conversations, these very constructive conversations. And I'm sure Megan appreciates it, and because also too, she knows it's coming from a place of love. So how can we switch that around? What's a new way of saying that?
affirmation for you, Megan? She's good.
Actually, I don't know exactly how to turn it around. I know some of the things that I have to do to beat the innate procrastination. I learned this in a seminar in the very early 90s. I went to a grammar and punctuation business writing. It was a business writing seminar.
That's
And
where that came from.
but
She corrects everyone all the time.
Oh,
that's from my mother,
Oh.
okay? With an English degree, teaching
Yeah.
degree, yeah. Our fun games on long trips were spelling words and things like that, so. But in this seminar, the woman talked about how, if you don't want to clean your house, it just seems like too much work to do, just get the cleaning supplies out that you need and put them on the table. And then gradually you'll pick up one and then think of it as, how many of these can I get put away? And, so, okay, I'm gonna dust this room, or I'm gonna, and then you put that away, and then the next thing that you need, you're just gonna do the one bathroom instead of the three, and, things like that, so that you stay caught up. So for me, even with work, I have to do some of that. I have to just break it down into smaller things and instead of like, I have to make 20 contacts today, it's like, how am I gonna get my first 5? Or,
What's that baby step toward doing the activity?
Right.
I think a good affirmation would be, I am a master of my schedule and I do the things that make me money first.
Like it, yeah. You guys want him to repeat that?
Please don't make me repeat. I would add something to it. I'm a master of my schedule and every day I do the things that make me money first.
so, I was supposed to teach the class on networking. And it was the day after the holiday, and I almost forgot I had to teach it, and nobody was here. So it's a class that I am really looking forward to teaching, because that is how I get all of my business. Everything that I get is from my sphere.
Do we have you back on the calendar for that class?
Not yet,
Okay.
but it's one I do have tips for introverts and extroverts and things that I've learned. I listed a house in Storville that was someone that I knew in BNI when I was a mortgage person, and I stay in touch with people. And so Debbie Benson had been her realtor, and Debbie moved away, so I was next in line with who she knew. So
Awesome. Love it, love it, love it.
I want to add something really quick.
Sure.
I went and grabbed this because I'm reading this book right now, and I actually gave them to our kids too. It's called From the Outhouse to the Mouse House, and it's about an executive that went and worked for Disney, and after being there 20 years got laid off. But the three things that she says you can read all these different business books and how to be successful in business, and you can see it's not a very thick book. But she says there's three things that are must-dos to be successful. And Megan, rally your relationships, possess positive style, and master self-motivation. All three things we mentioned here.
Rally relationships.
Possess positive style and master self-motivation. It's called the RPMs. And it is a fantastic, easy read book.
Master motivation.
Master self-motivation.
Self-motivation. So as you write that, that's key for number one, relationships. We're in the business of relationships. And oh, by the way, how do you manage, track, and maintain your relationships?
Through your what?
Database. I love that you said command. You're exactly right. That's through your database in command. Sarah, star for the day. Love it. Possess positive style. What does that actually say? It's the exact opposite of what I had written up here earlier. It's what? Positive mindset. Thank you, Lane. That's exactly what it is. Possess positive style.
Can you expound on that?
Yeah, I will on this first one.
No, on the possess
Positive
positive style.
Yeah. So I'll come back to that, Kelly, in just a minute. So I'm just going to say that's positive mindset, right? We happen to be at the real estate company that's probably has the most positive mindset of all real estate companies. So you're one step further on that one. Master self-motivation. What is this really a synonym for? Something we talked about up here.
Accountability.
Yeah, self-discipline, accountability. Self-discipline and accountability, right? So I'm just going to abbreviate self-discipline / accountability. These are all the things that Megan just talked about in relation to her best May ever. In her networking, so she's leveraging her relationships as any good agent should do and hit people up in her database. She's having a positive mindset about it, right? And she's increased her level of self-discipline and self-accountability via her schedule and things of that nature, right? Guys, these are the three things, thank you for sharing, Deb, the three things that you need to implement and do right in your business as an agent to see phenomenal success and results. Relationships, database, positive mindset, self-discipline, and accountability. If I had to sum it up to three things, that's what it would be. This is the recipe for a successful real estate business. It's a recipe for a successful business, period, right? So thank you for sharing that. So Kelly, you wanted me to expand upon positive mindset?
I think what you just said, positive mindset, that helped me understand what it's about.
Oh yeah, for possess positive style. This is, probably more broad to say you're just exuding positivity all the time. You're probably a little bit maybe charismatic. You're just interacting with people, or you're bringing positivity to your relationships, right? Who wants to do business with a negative Nelly? Who wants to do business with a Debbie Downer? Guys, who wants to be in the same office as one? I don't, right? Because if I'm trying to get excited and jacked up about listing appointments and contacts and all that fun stuff, and I've got a fun sucker next to me who comes into the office and says, "Oh God, did you see that so and so just took that listing? Like they need another listing. Oh, it's so overpriced." I'm gonna say, please leave, because you're bringing down my positive juju right now. Okay, I'm focused on being positive right now. You know what? Great for that agent. I'm so excited they took that listing. I hope it sells. Guess what? I'm on to the next one because I got to get my unfair share. That's the positivity that I'm talking about. And it gets back to the victim mentality stuff we talked about earlier. In this office, everybody else also has the right to call somebody on when they're being negative in a nice, polite way. "Hey, my deal just fell apart. It sucks. I can't believe it. We're going to postpone closing." "Hey, that's cool. I get it. That does suck. So let's have what we call a 1 to 5 minute pity party. And let's bury that. Let's reorient ourselves and move forward toward positive." Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be the biggest, I would poo-poo all this positive mindset mumbo jumbo, Greg, on a mindset class. So tell me how to make money, okay? And I realized it's the single greatest, most important thing is mindset. Single greatest, most important thing is mindset. Even if you're crushing it with a terrible mindset or being kind of negative, imagine what your results would be if you were truly embracing a positive mentality, having a positive mind. It takes work to be there. Some folks are naturally inclined to live in the life of positivity. I am thankfully blessed that I'm just kind of a naturally positively optimistic person. It's also a curse at times. because we tend to be procrastinators too. Gotta take care of itself, it'll all work out, right? But some people really have to work or help others work at maintaining that positive mindset. And what's tricky about it is most people, I think, are naturally positive, but it's when they get put in an environment or they're around the person that's going down the negative path, it's so easy to get sucked into going down that path of negativity with them. It's so easy. Matter of fact, you feel like you're doing them a favor by going down that path with them, right? Oh yeah, no, I hear you. Not to mention it. No, you gotta stop it right then there. Hey, Melissa, I hear you. I know it sucks to mow your yard, but isn't it gonna be so beautiful when it's done?
Fresh air,
and you got the kids running around on
exercise.
it? Go check out her Facebook post. That's what I saw. You know?
It
But
was
it's-
mostly there to make conversation.
No, I know.
I was doing networking.
It was. And your yard didn't look great, but you were, but what, so if I'm being facetious, but what she was doing, she said, hey, I got a negative mindset about this right now. Guys, help me turn positive. That's an okay thing to do. Hey guys, I had a terrible May. I had the worst May ever in my business. It really sucked. I need you guys to help point me in the right direction and get me positive about it. It's okay to say things like that, right?
Well, I can say I had the worst and the best May I've ever had.
There you go. I had the most unbelievable neutral May. I'm so excited to chat about it. Yeah, right. So anyway, I'll stop getting crazy. You guys are just getting me fired up this morning.
He had no intention of speaking, by the way,
No.
but it's the trainer and the coach in us that we just get fired up about this
I've
stuff.
never seen Zach sit back in the class.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, right. That's my cue, I think, to shut up. No.
Thank
No,
you.
because it helps.
And the
us,
name
so
of that
thank
book
you.
again, in case someone wants to pick it up,
From the outhouse to the mouse house.
from the outhouse to the mouse house.
What's the author's name?
Watching this live.
The last name is Steortz. Stortz? Stairs?
STEORT.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It was, I was like, where's this gonna go?
It is-
Where are we going, Deb?
It is seriously, it's an easy reader and it's so good.
I was
It's
like-
just like spot on.
Clearly she pulled that from Tim's reading show.
Yeah,
Clearly. All right, any last grateful messages or, things that you guys wrote down that you want to share before we move on?
I am grateful for incredible agents that I'm surrounded by.
Yes, there we go. All right, awesome.
Lori, I like your shirts.
Thank you.
All right, okay, so we have some new cappers in the house. Megan Hobson. And the DeMales who aren't here, we'll make sure that they get it. Bruce and Kelly capped, as well as, I think I said this last couple meetings, but I'm waiting for John to come back. I think he's still fishing. John Buckingham. So we want to recognize all of you guys and give you a round of applause. All right, now let's talk Game of Homes winners. Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead, go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay. Individual winner, Jennifer Walsh, if you're
Yeah.
watching, she's the one who won the ticket to Mega Camp in August.
Wow.
So Jennifer's Mega Camp ticket will be purchased and paid for on her behalf. And the house, if you guys remember, we divided into houses for the competition. That one was the House of Team. So that has Carrie Brand, the DeMales, Karen Baldridge, Wayne Gadian, Sherry Eddy, Jason Hubbard, Mike Delhanty, Melissa Grigg, Tamara Graham, Ben Collins, Susan Lean, Shauna Wook, Dustin Gullickson, Darcy, JD, Wes, Justin, Hosea, Aaron, Mohammed, Chad, Betty, Derek, and Mary Jo. So what they have won is a lunch. We're gonna have lunch brought into the market center and they get a 1 hour mastermind scripting session with Zach. So if any of you guys have ever been to a class that he has taught on scripts, he's phenomenal. Up in Burnsville, when I was a PC coach, he was the most requested guest to bring in for special sessions because he's just really talented in that area. So date and time to be determined for you guys that were in that house to be able to come in and participate in that. And then Miss Carrie Brand is out sick today with no voice. So she usually comes up here and does the Why I Love KW plug. So if you guys want to take out your cell phones, and on Facebook, we do the Y. She does the I lowercase love KW. If you guys want to take a minute to do that, I'm going to come up with mine today. Put those on Facebook. That's hashtag too, isn't it? I forgot the hashtag. Anyone want to share what they put? Not all at once.
Kind of goes with what I said about what I'm thankful for, just the office staff and fellow agents. Helpful, wonderful.
Awesome. I put culture, which kind of goes right along with that, Kelly. Anyone else? Okay, still working on it? All right. I'll let you finish that up, and we are going to go over some of the things on the June training calendar if you guys have not picked that up yet.
Can I interrupt for just a minute?
Yes, sir.
I have to leave in about 15 minutes. I have a lunch appointment, but I wanted to introduce this gentleman to my right. His name is
Yes. Who was our
Andre,
guest?
but he goes by Bruce. And
Okay,
there's
you
a
threw
story.
me there for a second because I said, hello, Bruce, nice to meet you. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, did I get his name wrong?
No, yeah, sorry. His name is Andre, but he goes by Bruce, and there's a story there. So ask him after the meeting, because I'll probably be gone.
Okay. Well, do you want to share a story?
I'll let him share it.
Okay.
It's not that interesting, but it's positive mindset. It's really interesting.
I would love to hear the story. Would you guys like to hear the story? Yeah, okay.
So in high school, or I just finished high school. In 9th grade, I had a teacher, Adam Himley. He was an English teacher, and on first day of school, and so he's a really funny teacher. And I asked, or he asked us if we have any other names we go by. He's like, if you guys have any other names you go by, just tell me. Like, I always liked the name Steve when I was younger, but I couldn't change that. So he gets to my name and he's like, Andre? I'm like, I go by Bruce. And he's like, yes, finally, I'm actually gonna call you that. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. He's like, are you sure it's gonna be for the whole year? I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. And so there was one of my other friends, I encouraged him to do it somehow. Johnny, he went from Johnny to Jake, and so he was called Jake. But what he didn't do was tell everybody, the other teachers in his other class to call him Jake. I ended up telling everybody to call me Bruce. So it just so happened to change my name to Bruce.
Was that just a name that you always liked? Is
It was
your middle
just
name?
something that I was just trying to think of something right there and then. I was working on being a funny guy. So it was something that I didn't have with me, like just to make people laugh.
And what did your
So
parents think about this? I'm just curious.
They don't know.
my mom was getting like emails sent home for like student of the month and stuff, like Bruce, come to Bruce's ceremony and
Who
stuff.
is this Bruce?
I have another child.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and so
That's why I like the part if you don't share it with the other teachers. They're like, who's Bruce?
yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing and
Oh,
thank you
yeah.
for being brave
And
and willing to speak up.
Oh, wait, thank you. I'm kind of nervous right now. But at my graduation, they ended up saying Bruce, and my dad's just like, really? Bruce? Like, yeah.
Awesome. All right, so training calendar. Let's talk about some of the awesome events that we have coming up. Is anyone staying after for the 1031 exchange class? I hope so. Yeah, that was requested, so we made it happen. Or
Is it gonna be recorded?
yeah, we'll have it recorded. So 1031 exchange class from 12:30 to 1:30. Joe Bessie of First American Exchange Company is coming in, and it's worth 1 hour of CE. Anyone have any CE that they need to get done? Yeah. When do we have to have that done by? Who knows?
Mid-month.
Yeah, by the 15th. It's creeping up on us. I just found out yesterday that my husband needs like 10 and a half hours. Oh, you better
Oh,
get on
sheesh.
that. Yeah. So guess what he's gonna be doing? Okay, so we have that coming up. And then boot camp, that's the intro to all the Keller Williams platform systems and processes. We have that on the calendar twice this month. The first one being tomorrow from 9 to 11, and then on the 24th from 1 to 3. Let's see, who's going to the outing? The Honkers baseball game. Yay, good. I believe the deadline to sign up was yesterday, but I bet you could probably sweet talk Christina into allowing you to still sign up. I have rallied the entire family, so our younger sons, Cole and Drake, and their girlfriends are gonna be there. My husband Steve's gonna come down. I think it's gonna be a great time. Did you find out for the $20, it's all you can eat and drink? Does that include alcoholic
Food and,
beverages?
beer and wine for
Wow.
sure.
Holy smokes,
Wow.
for $20. Yeah, okay, all right, maybe we should
Of course,
Uber home.
Keegan wanted to.
All right, so that's
Not
gonna be
really
our
good deal.
event, and that's our summer outing, as an office, so hope to see a lot of you
Signed
guys
up
there.
yesterday.
What's that? You did, but I think Christina, I think you could probably sweet talk her into securing some tickets.
Megan, I added
today.
tickets today.
And then Melissa is gonna be teaching a class getting started in investment properties next Tuesday, the 11th. That is gonna be a fantastic class. Any kind of plug you wanna give for that, Melissa, at all?
Well, I was gonna say, is there anything in particular you want me to make sure to include in that?
I don't know. You're the investor expert, so I think we'll just leave that in your hands. That'll be a good class for you guys to go to. And then the ALC meeting, our next ALC meeting is next Wednesday, the 12th. For those of you who either aren't familiar with or haven't been attending that open forum, it's really a great opportunity for you to come in and see how the ALC meetings are run. That's also your time outside of the ALC meeting to have a voice. You can go and seek out an ALC member at any time and have conversations, in private or outside of the ALC meeting. But the open forum runs from 10 to 10:30, and then the actual ALC meeting, which then closes from the perspective of then you can't speak and give kind of your 2 cents or whatever. You can still remain and observe the ALC meeting, but the time to give opinion or ask questions or things of that nature is in that open forum. Last ALC meeting, we had some conversations surrounding the phones when they're not being answered during office hours, and who qualifies to be able to get those leads, how those leads are handled. And so we are likely going to be voting on that. So if you want to have a say and ask questions and be heard with regard to that, I would highly recommend that you come to the open forum from 10 to 10:30. And then the ALC meeting will be from 10:30 to 12, and we'll likely be voting on how that's gonna play out at that time. Any questions on that at all? Okay, let's see, what else is important that I wanna point out? KW commercial collaboration, you guys, again, you asked for some of our resident commercial agents to share more information on commercial properties, how they could be a referral resource for you or point you in the right direction if you come across those. Next team meeting will be on the 18th, and we'll have lunch being provided by Taylor Metcalf of Country Financial. Gary Brand will be teaching listing and buyer templates the day after that, and then the training room. We're gonna start about 10 o'clock that morning. We're gonna have some juice and muffins or whatever to kind of get you some energy, some power bars maybe. And we're gonna sit in the room and we're gonna do lead generation, side by side. Whether it's calling your database, whether it's calling a list of expireds, a list of for sale by owners. And then for those of you who want to participate in the afternoon activities, you can either stay here and can continue to do the lead generation. I'm gonna be in here myself doing it, so you're gonna hear me live and in person. If there's anyone that you want me to call on your behalf to help you build your downline, for me to book an appointment with, send me their name ahead of time, I'll call. You'll be in the room and hear the conversation likely, not the conversation, but my end of the conversation. And then in the afternoon, we're gonna do that amazing race that we talked about where you can earn points, good luck prizes and things of that nature. So that's from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. on the 28th, Power Day. Any questions with regard to that at all? Nope. Okay, all right. So anyone want to take a guess what the 2 numbers on the board represent? Any guesses? So the 2 numbers on the board, for those of you who are watching online and might not be able to read them, the top number is 23,000 and the bottom number is 30,000. Profit share. 2018, we profit shared $23,000 for the month of May in the Market Center, and this year we've increased that by $7,000. So we're sharing that $30,000 to our associates for the month of May. How cool is that? Goosebumps again. How cool is
Keep
that?
selling, Sarah.
Sarah had her first closing. We did this month.
And her first listing.
And her first listing. She's rocking it. So yes, Sarah is adding to that profit share, but how cool is that? That in 1 month, we're sharing back $30,000 to you guys. That the company's sharing that back to you. 1 month. So kudos to you guys. It speaks to things like what Megan shared in the beginning, you guys doing a lot of business and things, picking up and we're all just kind of rocking and rolling. Something that we started at the last team meeting that I want to spend a little bit of time on are coming soon and buyer needs. Anybody have any coming soons? Have you already listed your new listing?
Listed and sold.
Listed and sold. The condo?
Yeah.
Nice. Did you get multiples?
No.
Okay. Still, nice, got it sold. All right, anyone have any coming soons as far as listings coming on the market that you wanna share?
We have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath over by, KFC on the Beltline.
Okay.
In that, probably about 190-ish,
And when's that one coming on?
not 100% sure.
So soon.
It'll be
sometime.
soon.
All right. Any other listings that you guys wanna talk about?
I have it's not gonna be my listing, it's, I'm sale contingent on a property, and that listing is coming up. And I think it's gonna be a hot one. So I
Awesome.
thought I'd let y'all know.
So help Melissa out. If you get that sold, then you can remove your contingency.
Right.
They can yeah.
It's gonna be around 200, maybe under 200. It's on Mayfield Southeast. It's almost a half an acre, and it has a big man shed.
Oh, nice. I'll buy it.
So those are like, if you got anybody
Do you know
looking for a
Bedroom?
big man shed, I think it's a 3.2.
Could be a mother-in-law suite? Mansion?
The man shed, I
Depends
don't.
on how much you like your mother.
Any other listings coming on? How about buyer needs then? Switch to buyer needs. Who has buyer needs right now? You guys have gotta have a few, yeah.
I need like an in-law.
Oh, so you're both looking for that. Okay, interesting. Okay. It's funny, up in the cities, we have, two sisters that their mom is moving in with them. They had to end up going the new construction route because we just couldn't find any existing. So, I don't know if there are builders around that build in the price point that they're looking that, provide that kind of floor plan. Any other buyer needs?
I still have a gal looking in under 200,000.
Are you guys still running into lots of multiples, or do you feel like that's starting to slow down a little bit?
In that price range, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
under 200?
There's just not enough there. So if it's a decent property, it's
Yeah.
it's a multiple offer situation.
Okay,
I got somebody desperate for a duplex,
okay,
under 200,
okay.
or around 200.
I don't know how
To
much.
live in or as an investment property.
They wanna live in half and rent the other half.
Okay. I don't know if Sam and AJ deal with multi-family, but you might wanna check with them. Wouldn't hurt, I suppose. Anybody else? Any other buyer needs?
I've got a buyer who needs something under 200, but they don't want Rochester, Grand Meadow, Stewartville, Hayfield.
Okay, all right. I would recommend, if you guys haven't done this already, going to your social media and saying, hey, have a buyer looking for, who's got something, or who should I talk to? I find that I have a lot of luck doing that. All right, anything else before we move on? Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit about, we're gonna talk about some disclosure tips, and we're also gonna talk a little bit about audit forms. So when you guys submit a form for compliance to the office, is everyone aware of the fact that we have audit forms that you have to fill out? There's an audit form. Maybe you guys refer to it as a checklist. I'll call it a checklist, okay? So
Like, what do we
when I
say?
saw the pages, I'm like, I know we have one. So we'll call it a checklist, audit form, whatever you wanna call it, but it is a checklist of what is required for a listing. And we have a checklist that is required for when you have a sale, correct? And so those are required and the documents in them are required, and we are locking down more and becoming more stringent on those must be in there before a check is released to you. And here's why, guys. The busier we get, the more difficult it is to have to hit pause, go ask an agent for a particular document. And so, the only way for us to really assure that you guys are, looking at those lists, making sure that you're providing the appropriate documentation is to say, and quite frankly, it's not just because we want to make sure that you have everything in there that's in there for us personally, but as a market center from a Department of Commerce perspective as well, right? So from a legal perspective, we want to make sure that not only you are protected, but the brokerage is protected. So we have to have the appropriate documents in there. We're gonna start requiring, and we're gonna add to the checklist a copy of either the earnest money check, or we can do that, we've checked, the earnest money check is just staying in dot loop, it's not going anywhere other than for the broker's eyes, okay?
And then when dot loop is hacked, that's the whole reason that you're not supposed to have it uploaded.
Well, we're gonna have it uploaded, so it has to be either a copy of the check if they do it that way, but I would venture to say that most people do the trust funds route, or no, it's pretty half and half. So it's either a copy of the trust funds confirmation that it's been sent and received, or a copy of the earnest money check, they have to be in there. We had an instance rather recently where the earnest money check was not received and was not discovered until after closing. So we've gotta have a checks and balance in there, so that's gonna be added, all right? So just know that if you get an email back from either broker Tim or from Katie requesting an additional document, it's not because we take pleasure in making your life miserable and making you go back and chase after a piece of paper. It's because it's a requirement. And if you're using the checklist, you should have everything in that file that you need, okay? So we've got to put the responsibility back on your shoulders, because we just can't have Katie or Tim or staff chasing after documents that.
So you mean somebody filled out the earnest money receipt and didn't get the check? Because if we have the earnest money receipt in
Yes.
there, we should have the check.
Yeah.
And the check number and everything should be written on it.
Yeah, I don't know if the earnest money receipt was filled out or not. All I know is that.
Because that's sort of the check and balance right there, right? And then, I mean, right now, it says right in there, like I can go look at my status and it'll say earnest money received, check number debit, or earnest money received date, whatever it is for trust funds. I mean, it's,
We want both in there, so it's gonna be added to the checklist. Okay? The front desk, if they receive the check, will be scanning that and just uploading it into your loop if you have it created already. How many of you are creating your loop right away when you start working with the client, or do you wait until you do a green sheet? You create it right away, okay. So for those that have loops created right away, if the office receives that, they can scan it and put it in there for you, and then you'll get a notification saying that it's there, okay? Any questions on that at all? Okay, perfect. All right, thanks, Kelly. Have a good afternoon. Okay, let's talk a little bit about seller's disclosures. We've been getting a lot of questions about seller's disclosures, and with the kind of winter and spring that we had, a lot of water in basements, right? A lot of water in basements and other areas of the home. So we want to make sure that, you know, when we're presenting those seller's disclosures to our sellers, that we're reminding them. The little script that I use is you have to disclose any material fact that could affect the use or enjoyment of the home, okay? Also, the other phrase that I use is when in doubt, disclose, right? So if you're unsure, or if it's not a direct question on the seller's disclosure, but you're wondering, should I disclose it, right? You're much better off disclosing it up front than saying, oh, by the way, after the fact, because what do you suppose happens when you do that? What do you create? In a buyer, what's that? Angst, yeah, or they'll start to question, well, what else weren't they, oh, by the way, I forgot about, right? So you're much better off to disclose that upfront, you know, in detail. Now, what happens if after you list the property and you have the seller's disclosure uploaded as a supplement into MLS, something happens that's not on seller's disclosure, and you have to disclose it? How do you do that? You use a document called an amendment to seller's disclosure, okay? Make sure, bless you, make sure that you're using that document. You could arguably create a different document or handwrite it on something as an additional supplement, but if you want to really stay out of trouble, dot your i's, cross your t's, and cover yourself, you wanna make sure that you use the appropriate form, which is called amendment to seller's disclosure. So let's say, for example, that a house goes on the market, and after it's been on the market for a couple of weeks, the dishwasher leaks and water gets on the floor and the flooring is damaged. You would use that amendment then to amend the seller's disclosure. Is everyone, by the way, when you have your seller's disclosures or your lead-based paint addendums, things of that nature, are you uploading those right away on all of your listings so that they're appearing in MLS? Okay, good. It's just a best practice. to do. MLS was only keeping those in there for a short term. I think it was only so many days after closing. They've gotten rid of that. I don't know if you guys saw the recent message that they posted, but they went back, I don't know how far, was it a year?
1 year.
Yeah, they went back a year and they reinstated some of those supplements that had disappeared. And the intention moving forward is to keep those in there a little bit longer. I don't know why they were removing them. I don't know if they were running out of space
Right.
or.
Because, no, it actually had to do with, because Flex would keep them in there forever and ever and ever. So I think it was a state thing. I don't think it had anything to do with Matrix or Flex or any of it was, let's say you buy a house and 2 years later you sell the house and the previous seller disclosure is still online. And your new seller disclosure is like maybe they had water in the basement and you didn't know, but that document was readily available to you, new seller. And then you were not disclosing something and then checking the box that you didn't have the previous seller disclosure. And so the realtor should have read it, the seller should have read it, et cetera, et cetera. So there was stuff that was coming up because those things were still in there from previous listings. And it could go back 3 listings depending on, how recently stuff sold.
Sure.
So they actually removed all of that for our protection. They started taking all of that out so that we're not liable for something that was up there before that we didn't go back and get and check and whatever.
Gotcha. Makes
So
sense.
that's why they started taking those out.
Okay. What I would do as a best practice moving forward is if there is a previous seller's disclosure or there is, let's say for example, that, I don't know, there was hail damage and they have a copy of the invoice or the work order. I would print all of that and have my buyer initial every single page of every extra document just to make sure that you're covered. So that you could go back if they ever said, well, Megan didn't share that with me. Likely Megan did, they just don't recall that she did. Think of all of the paperwork that gets shoved in front of them when you're writing a purchase agreement or when you're listing a home. So, up in the cities, it's very common for places like Minneapolis and St. Paul to have a truth in housing inspection. So on those inspections, there's just a signature line on the very last page for a buyer to sign. I have them initial every single page before that and sign the last one. I just think it's best practice to CYA, right? And make sure that they're initialing off on everything and that you're having a conversation about it. So any other thoughts on that? Any other things like that you guys have been running into out in the marketplace as far as disclosures are concerned or issues that are happening, water, things of that nature?
No, I mean, pretty much anytime a seller says, is this something we have to disclose? My answer is yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and now that you told me about it, if you didn't disclose it, I have to, so I'll be writing on that disclosure if you don't do it, so. Here's one thing that I actually just had come up. I had a listing and Kelly actually had the buyer and then she called and said, I just wanna make sure, cause this is dual agency, blah, blah, blah. But there's something on the siding, it looks like the grill, got too close and it warped the siding, the heat from the grill. But the grill was no longer sitting there, it had been moved to another place, so it was really visible. But it wasn't on the seller disclosure that there was any damage to the siding. So on that, and I don't think the seller really knew that it had been there or that it was an issue. So having had a discussion about it, like after she had filled out the disclosure and everything, then a relative had said something and you know what, neither one of us thought to go back to the disclosure and make sure that we had that on there, that this is what it is and this is what happened, but.
Yeah, you're actually bringing up a good point. I had someone recently who, it was actually another disclosure issue where the other agent called me and said, well, do you think I should point out that it was either something wasn't filled in correctly or something was missing? I said, absolutely. You have to be an advocate for your client. That's your fiduciary responsibility. So if you come across a seller's disclosure that is not filled out correctly or appears to be missing some information like that, it's incumbent upon you to raise that issue with the other agent and say, hey, and insist upon that be added or amended or included in some way. And if they give you some pushback on it, then give Tim a call or give one of us a call and we'll be happy to make that phone call for you. But obviously we can't force them to do it, but I would say that you most definitely from your side of things want to make sure on both sides, whether you're, representing the seller or the buyer, make sure that finds its way on there. inspection issues and disclosure issues are probably the two biggest things that, makes the E&O insurance kick in, right? People feel like something, wasn't disclosed that should have been, and they've now suffered damages, so, why even put yourself in that position? Just be extra careful and take the extra amount of time to make sure that you're disclosing that and that you're looking for things. A very common thing on the seller's disclosure is, how you've got yes working, NA, and not working, is I go the extra mile with my sellers and explain to them, if it doesn't exist, that's when you mark it, because what happens without giving that explanation is,
And even when you give it, they still check
They
no,
go
they just
down,
start
no.
going, yes,
Yeah.
no, yes, no.
they start checking the wrong boxes. So you need to make sure that if that's the case, right, that you bring it to someone's attention and you have them correct. Any questions with regard to that at all? Any other situations that you guys want to share with regard to water disclosure, things of that nature? No? Okay. What else are you guys seeing out in the marketplace right now? It's either a reoccurring issue, something that concerns you. How are the listings doing? Are they still selling within a reasonable amount of time?
Depending on the price range.
Okay, so multiple lots are slowing down in certain price ranges, but we're still experiencing a pretty decent average days on market. Okay. All right. Well, with that, we have just a few minutes left, so I am going to give you guys some time to fill out the form that I put in front of you. That's just something new that we're wanting to capture and have on you guys, so when we want to celebrate you. Did you? Yeah, some of you may have already filled it out. If you haven't, if you would please do that. But it's just a way for us to be able to celebrate some of your, small wins and successes, or your big wins and successes. It's nice information for us to have as a leadership team. So if you've not filled that out already, if you wouldn't mind filling that out for us and then just leaving it behind, that would be fantastic and appreciated. And just a reminder of the 1031 exchange class starting at 12:30. Highly recommend that you guys stick around and take part in that. And if there are any other folks like that, or vendor partnerships that you have that you think would be willing to come in and teach a class that we can leverage, please make sure and let either myself or Christina know, so that we can make sure that we're bringing that value back to you guys on the topics that are most important to you. What would you guys say is the biggest challenge in your business right now that you need training around? As we're starting to look at the July training calendar. Biggest challenge in your business right now that you think that you could benefit from having some training around?
I took that buyer paperwork class from Kelly, and then I'd like to see the other side as well, the listing.
Okay,
paperwork.
listing paperwork side. So I don't know if Katie covers any of that in her boot camp class, but I'm gonna jot that down. So you went through the buyer side,
Mhm.
right?
Where Kelly just went through like the entire contract, like line by line, and helped explain how she said it.
She's awesome.
Yeah, it
Her
was
class,
really, really good.
One of the other things that we're gonna be doing that Deb actually is gonna help us with now that Tim is the broker is teaching more classes on forms. So what we're looking at starting in July is having at least 2 classes a month specifically on forms. And who's been watching the Broker Bit videos? What do you guys think of those?
Good.
Kind of cool, right? It's a nice way to get some information out across to you guys. And Tim's great with the video. I was just looking here to see, I felt like there was maybe a class on that dealt with, okay, so Carrie has lister and buyer templates coming up on the 19th. She might hit some on that, but I'll make sure that in July we have a class specifically with regard to paperwork there. What else? Where else do
I
you
have
guys feel?
two.
Yeah,
One is Sphere Scripts
okay,
and roleplay/roleplay.
okay.
And the other one is creating a monthly or quarterly email or newsletter template.
Gee, you don't wanna use it yet?
Do you do the 33 touch or the 36 touch or any of that at all?
Yeah,
Okay, so creating a monthly newsletter or just touch
Template.
program? Okay. Are you talking about a touch program, or are we talking just very specifically newsletter?
very specifically newsletter.
Okay,
It's on my 33 Touch program, but it never goes out.
got it, okay. I think I have some that I can get to come down here to teach that class.
She used Edge, which is why I stopped doing it.
Okay. Any others that you guys can think of that would be useful or helpful? Mindset, we talked a lot about mindset today. Did you guys attend a class just on mindset?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you think of any others, please let me know. We always want to get your guys' feedback to make sure that there are classes that you want to
Oh, I
attend.
have one more,
Oh, okay.
recruiting.
I'm recruiting. Okay, I'm helping to build your downline.
Yep.
I love it. All about that. So we'll call that maybe a profit share. How about we call that a profit share
Yep.
mastermind class?
Yep.
Okay. Got it. I'll be happy to teach that one. Okay. We will get that on the books for July. We are going to be officially kicking off the productivity coaching program in July as well. So more details to follow on that and what that's gonna look like. So as you're speaking with folks, either thinking about getting into the business or that are already in the business that are maybe challenged and looking for some extra support and a coach to help get them up and into production quickly, that's something that you can, share. We just have kind of the basics that it's gonna be happening and we'll be sharing details as we get a little bit closer to the
Is there a cost to it?
There is a fee to be in the program. It's not a monthly fee. It comes from your closing. So you don't pay for the coach unless you're producing, which is a win-win. Imagine the coach's motivation to get you into production because they're coaching and spending time with you. They're not getting paid until you close on something. You're not having to pay for coaching until or unless you close on something. Unlike MAPS coaching, MAPS coach is $1,000 a month. You're paying $1,000 a month for a coach, whether you're producing or not. If you have MAPS coach, you should be producing. But you get the point. You're not having to write a check to the coach. So we want to make it as easy and accessible to everyone who wants to participate as possible. So we'll send out and share all those details as we get a little bit closer. So I'm about a minute over. Thanks for hanging an extra minute with me. Hope to see you guys, some of you back for the 1031 exchange class. Have an awesome
Is that
afternoon.
CE class? Does
Well,
Yes, that's worth 1 hour of CE. Yep, 1 hour. You got it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I was like,
Nope, not yet. So I sent it in July, and then from what I've been seeing, I feel like this would be awesome. Facebook, like today, if you guys do this every month.
We do
it's a
twice a
cool-
month,
Yeah, it's a
actually.
cool thing to do. It's
Yeah.
really
Oh,
motivating.
yeah.